just when you thought it was safe to go onto iTunes. This is Next Level Guy, the only website that makes self-development as fun as going to the movies. It's time to take the red pill and escape the Matrix.
What's happening, guys? It's time for another episode of the Next Level Guy Show podcast with your favourite tutor, Ian Dawson-Mackay. Next Level Guy is a go-to men's interview, interest and improvement website where I quiz the experts to find out the hacks, tips, methods and protocols that you can implement in your own life to take it to the next level and live happier, healthier, wealthier, sexier and so much more. Today's guest is James the Beast Wilson. James is a heavyweight professional boxer and MMA competitor. At a young age, he faced homelessness, juvenile delinquency, and ultimately becoming a child of foster care syndrome. Using his own personal philosophy, he changed his life around from petty crime to become a multi-sport high school and college sports standout. As a result, he was offered a full sports scholarship to college. He went on to become the 2011 California MMA Heavyweight Champion. With a background in Kempo Karate, Muay Thai, Kickboxing and Wrestling, the Beast has quickly become noted as one of the top 10 US professional MMA heavyweights and kickboxers. He's currently ranked in the top 15 heavyweight kickboxers in the world. However, it's not just about the amazing skills he shows in the ring that made me want to get this interview and made him such a big fan favourite. His passion, intensity and drive are on show daily as he drives himself forward to complete everything with 100% using his famed beast mode or no mode philosophy. Away from the ring, the dedicated father spends his time giving back and helping others who are possibly going down the wrong road, who are finding the temptations, and he shows them how to use his beast mode philosophy to find their passion and go beast mode in the chase of their dreams. In this interview, we discuss his story, combat sports, beast mode, mental toughness, how you can use your demons as motivation to change your own life, and how to truly get what you want from life, and so much more. And now, let's get to the interview. For those who maybe don't know who you are, you're a massive name in the sort of mixed martial arts scene and the boxing scene. You're an awesome guy, a very intense guy, but for those who maybe don't know who you are, could you just give a quick intro about who you are, why you're so well known?
Yeah, definitely. James the Beast Wilson, professional mixed martial artist, professional Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxer. I've pretty much done it all. And prior to all of the combative sports, I was a massive football player. Um, Playing high school, college, semi-pro, and they got picked up professionally by the Chicago Bears. So, I've been doing this for quite a while. The combats and the sports and athletics and fitness, everything. It's been pretty much since I was 14 years old. So it's been a long journey.
Yeah, because you've done some amazing stuff. I was going through your press kit earlier and, doing some Google research and that over the last few weeks, and you've done some phenomenal things. But can we go back to the very start? What was little James like? What did you want to be as a child? If I kind of could transport us back to that point, what sort of things would you be doing as a kid? What kind of activities interested you?
You know what? When I was a kid, man, it was my perspective on life was totally different from how I am now. Growing up, I played sports. Never any organized, just in the street as regular kids and whatnot. But growing up, I was homeless. I was homeless. Dealt with a lot of gang banging and family issues. We were very poor, single parent home. Growing up with no father, so I didn't have a male figure in the house kind of to guide me in any specific direction. I just kind of figured things out on my own and through the street life. And it just became a point where I was in and out of juvenile hall, in and out of group homes, and we sleeping in park benches and taking showers in a park and sleeping in motels and cars packed up with everything we own. And one day, I did some things and got caught up for it. And I was fortunate enough to where I didn't go to YA, which is Youth Authority, which is prison for minors. I ended up getting sent to a placement, to a group home foster care. And that was probably one of the best things that happened because from there, I began to gain some structure, which I was missing in my life. And, I really was able to buckle down and kind of find out what I liked. And that's how I found out that, I was pretty good at sports, at football.
Yeah, because I mean, I really liked that there was an interview I heard where you said that you have a similar mindset to me. As you wouldn't change anything because everything that's happened has taken us to this exact point. It's made us who we are and given us the life that we currently lead. So you wouldn't have the good things without the bad things, the light with it, the dark, that sort of thing. I mean, how does somebody take such horrible situations like that, and like a lot of people would be crushed by that level of emotional baggage and negativity? How did you manage to turn that around? Like, because you've got an amazing mindset. You're talking about beast mode, going 100%, always on the grind. How on earth did you manage not to carry on down that road and just keep getting caught up in trouble? How did you manage to switch into James the Beast Wilson that we know today?
You know what? I mean, first and foremost, definitely, I would never change anything because everything that's transpired in my life up until this point, it's kind of formulated and helped mold me to who I am today. And it was just like it was a switch where like I just pretty much analyzed my current situation when I was growing up, and I was very unhappy with it. I didn't like it, and it was like you can either let you can either be a victim of your circumstance, or you can pull yourself up and be like, you know what, I'm going to buckle down. This is what I got to do. But it all starts with us. We have to make a decision for ourselves. Like, this is what I'm going to do. And once you make that decision within yourself, it's nothing that can really stop you, man. The only person that can stop you is you. But you got to just be dedicated to whatever it is you choose to do. Be dedicated, be committed. And that's why one of the things I live by is my motto: beast more than no more. Because the only way to be successful at whatever it is you do in this life is to give it 150%. Otherwise, you're just selling yourself short. So you have to give your all, and once you make that commitment to yourself, man, that's the first step.
So when you initially discovered that, that sort of love of sport, when you're into that sort of environment, can you remember which sport it was? Was there somebody there like a substitute father figure, or was it the fact that you found that you could control your anger, you could let out your demons almost by playing sport, like football and stuff like that? Or was it the structure of the game and the team rules and stuff that you really liked? Was there a moment that you can think back that was the sort of initial catalyst for the change?
That was definitely my outlet. Um, Once I got into sports, because for one, like I said, being in a group when that's one of the best things to happen to me. But also as a kid, you don't want to be in a house full of 20 other boys. You're locked down. You're being told what to do, what to wear, when to eat, when to shit, when to piss, and I use that as my release to get out of the house and release my anger. One of the things my high school football coaches always tell me, I was playing running back. He said, when you run the ball, you run like you're angry. And I was angry. I was mad at the world. I was mad that I was in the circumstance that I was in. And I used that and I let that fuel me. You can either let what happened to you fuel you, or you can hold on to it and just go in the tank. And I use that as a tool to propel me forward. So it was definitely a way to release my anger, and football was my outlet.
Because I love that. I mean, I think we've all been in situations where we kind of use hatred of something or a past experience to really sort of grind out that last rep and stuff like that. But when you watch your videos, you're such a positive guy. You've got an amazing relationship with your kids, and you were teaching your son when I think you were doing some kickboxing training about anger makes you sloppy, that not to use it to kind of to push yourself, but do it for the right reasons. And that's what I loved about your stuff. It wasn't this kind of, go to the dark places like you see in some of these guys. It's, you, even though you had a sort of a really tough upbringing, you've turned into an amazing guy. But how can you think back during this time? What was the things you struggled with? Was it not having that father figure, or was it the situation you were in? How did that kind of shape you, do you think, that environment of living with the 20 other guys and not having the sort of normal freedom that a normal teenager would have?
Right. You know what? It's crazy. I think, yeah, everything definitely played its part. Not having a male figure, so that forced me to figure out things on my own, which made me comfortable with being independent. You know, I wasn't a normal kid where I could go ask my parents to borrow some money or do this, that, and the third. No, I had to figure things out on my own. You know, and being in a group home, 20 other guys in the house, it definitely helped me be able. It helped socialize me, where I'm now able to deal and communicate with all different walks of life, from people from all different backgrounds. But at the same time, we're all one. Even though you may be black, white, Hispanic, whatever, but we're all one. So it definitely helped me to be able to interact with all different types of walks of life and understand people and
Mm.
gain a better sense of life, And yeah, man, like I said, everything that transpired is what helped catapult me to who I am today, man. My mindset, everything.
'Cause I love how you take something that normally would crush people and you're just like, bring it, I'm going to smash my way through it and I'm going to learn something from it and I'm going to share it. You know, what was it about like the combat sports side of things that initially drew you? Was it the fact that it was you fighting against your opponent that you could channel your sort of your past and focus on that particular person? What kind of took you away from, because you got picked up by the Chicago Bears. What kind of drew you away from football, team sports, that sort of thing, and moving into the combat world of things? Do you think it was the sort of gang life that you had led up to previously to that point?
It's crazy, man, because like I was never, like I said, I was big on football. I never thought about fighting or going into combative sports, and it just came to a point where I wanted to do something different. My passion wasn't the same for football, and I wanted to do something more. And I remember my teammates, they coming to me and pulling me in, and they were showing me YouTube. This is the time when YouTube just started to hit. And who was it? It was Kimbo Slice.
Ah, cool.
And yeah, yeah. And that was kind of like my first, like, damn, yeah, I could do that. You know what I mean? And that's what kind of gave me that itch a little bit. But I was still playing football. Football is a full-time job. You can't do both at the same time. So subconsciously, it was always like, when I'm done playing football, I'm gonna do that. And so really, it was me watching that, which gave me that itch, and I kind of subconsciously just carried that until I was done balling.
So how did you avoid then? You're in this environment where I'm sure there were plenty of chances to sort of fall back into that kind of lifestyle, the sort of the juvenile delinquent lifestyle that you mentioned in some of your other interviews. How did you avoid falling back into that? How did you make sure that you just kept on the right path? Did you just use sports as a way of, getting up, training, eating right, focusing right, avoiding putting yourself in an environment where you could lead into those situations? For somebody who's listening, who's in a similar situation, how can we shape our environment to avoid going down the same path that you've been going that you want to avoid?
Right. I would say the simplest way is to find your passion. You really got to find something that you're passionate about, that you care about, and it's not always going to be easy. Every day is not going to be a good day, but you got to learn how to just stay focused. Focus. And football, that was my focus. I noticed that, wow, I'm good at this. This can take me somewhere. This can be my way out. This can lead to something much bigger than my current situation. So I used that. That was my drive. That was my force to keep me focused. And you just got to find your passion, find that drive, and stay focused on it, regardless of how tough you get. You got to be able to persevere. And once you find that one thing that you love, man, that's you got to understand that's your way out, and it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to work away and chip away at it every day, you know. But at the end of the day, at the end of the tunnel, And that prize is there, but you just got to stay focused.
So how did you manage to build that, that level of consistency, that kind of muscle that made you go to the gym every day? How did you avoid being it's easier just going out and hanging with my pals in the street. Where did that desire to be 150%, to be the beast come from? Like, where does that mentality come from? Because a lot of guys who have gone, this is just too tough, getting up at 4 a.m. and doing my running and working late and eating right. I can just go hang with my friends instead. Where do you get that
Hmm.
beast mentality from?
Man, it's crazy. It's just like I guess it derives from childhood because at the end of the day, it's like, man, if if I don't go out and do what I got to do, if I don't put forth my best foot, if I don't give my 110% effort, I'm not going to eat tonight. You know, and it was just kind of a survival thing that just developed for when I was a kid, and once I became, you know, in the weight room, and it became addictive. I became I was an addict of it, and it just stuck, and from that you see your results, and you see you keep getting better and keep increasing, and you fall in love with it, and it becomes your addiction. But again, you got to be dedicated. You know, all that comes down to dedication and being consistent.
Because
So
there's something in there about like when you're working out and you start throwing the weights around and it's that sort of primal masculine sort of energy. It's like just you against the weight. The weight's always going to be the same weight. It's always going to be you. You know, you might push through the weight. You might achieve your goal of how many reps or the PR attempt. But if it beats you, you learn from it. And then you go again and again, and it actually becomes really enjoyable. I mean, and I get that you're very competitive and you really push it. And was this a way of letting the pent up, not anger, but maybe your the baggage that you've carried from childhood out, and then you started seeing the changes in you, and you started seeing the development, and thought, yeah, this is the path for me. Was the kind of change the iron using the iron? Was that the kind of motivation to go, yeah, this is a road for me? I'm definitely staying on this way.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And it was an outlet. Shit, I had to come in here, throw these iron weights around, and I feel I feel the change. I see the transition in myself physically and mentally, because it's first and foremost, all of it is mental. You know, uh, like you can come in there and have a bad day just because your mind wasn't right. So the main part in all of this is that mental toughness, that mental focus. It all starts with the mind. The mind is the strongest muscle we got on our body. So first and foremost, that has to be right, and that right there can take you to a place where you can see your results, see your gains, or you could just totally go the opposite. You could totally go left and quit and throw in the towel because it's hard.
I mean, that's what I love is you're not just talking about muscles in terms of like your biceps, chest, all that sort of thing. You're actually looking at it in terms of your mind. That's what really I liked about your material, your content was you look at strengthening the mind at the biggest muscle, and you push your kids to be like well spoken, to focus, to develop like their mindset, their personal strength. And that's what I loved about that sort of thing. You're amazing with your kids, and I know they're going to be amazing people from that. But where does you come across as somebody very articulate, very well spoken. I mean, how did you shape your mind? How did you keep developing your mind as a muscle? Did you read a lot? Where you like because you've got as a BA in sociology?
Correct. Yes.
So how
Yep.
did like that
And
kind of schooling help you at that stage of your life? How did that sort of structure and that routine help you in this progression, like the development to become the beast that we know and love today?
yeah, man. Yeah, just life, man. They say life is the best teacher, and just from certain events, it made me have to be tough. It made me have to be mentally strong. Otherwise, shoot, I'd be dead or in jail. You know, and you gotta just use that as a tool to keep growing from. Like it's same thing I do with my kids, and it's different forms you can do it in. But that's the best. I see the beauty of it is once you train your mind to never stop, to never quit, the body's going to follow. A lot of people don't understand that they rely on their body more than their brain, and that's why there's a lot of people who don't meet their goals. They don't see the results they want because they're not training their mind. First and foremost, you got to go to a place in your mind where you can envision where you want to be, what you want to look like, what you want your life to shape out to, and that's where it starts. And then the rest of the work follows. But first and foremost, you got to go to that place in your head and envision yourself doing what it is you want to do, and more than likely, the body is going to follow.
So how do you use things like visualization, meditation, or is this just something that you've kind of developed your own way of kind of going into that place in your mind that pushes you on and keeps going? Or do you take time during your current week to kind of really look at where you are and like absorb things and meditate and plan and use action boards and stuff like that? Do you use any of that kind of mental training, projections, that sort of thing?
For me, it's just when whether it's going in doing fight training or weightlifting or running, whatever. Once I step in that door, everything else is blocked out and I'm locked in. I have tunnel vision, you know, and I'm just completely focused. For everybody, it's going to be different. You got to find what it is. What you got to find your trigger. What works for you to take you into that place. For me, I'm a very mentally tough and strong individual, very self motivated. So once I step in the door, everything else, nothing else matters. What matters on me is knocking out the task that's at hand.
Because like I do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I'm like 6'3", 260 pounds or whatever, it's something like that. And when I initially started, I was society teaches us to avoid hurting other people, to look after the vulnerable, and not to be aggressive with each other, and you fit into your kind of your predefined roles. So I really struggled suddenly with somebody saying, "Get on top of him and choke him out," or twist his arm to that point. That kind of aggressive side of it was really new to me. But yeah, it comes across as it's all controlled aggression in your videos. You can see that tunnel vision, but you've got focus and drive. You're not just smashing the crap out of a bag or twatting the pads. You can actually see that you're in control, that you've got a goal at it. So how do you train on a normal week? I mean, are you looking just to get better, or do you block it into stages? So you want to work on your skill development one day, your cardio the next day. Do you have overall goals for your training, or do you just let that down to the coaches and just follow what they've taught?
Right now, I definitely, I try to take input from everybody, but I definitely have my own way of doing things. And I incorporate a little bit of everything every day. Like my training, especially as a boxer, as a fighter, I've never had the typical fighter training. My stuff was always very unique. And I don't know if it's because I come from football, because I just think differently, but it's just different. Like, so each and every day, I'm incorporating plyometrics, explosive movements, sprints, power. Everything is incorporated, and I still lift weights and I fight. There's, you got the myth of people, oh, if you're a fighter, you shouldn't lift weights, make it stiff, make it slow. Possibly, depending on the individual. It's not about what you do, but how you do it. So there's always a method to the madness, man, and to each his own. But for me, I know what works for me, and I think everybody individually has to know what works for them and how to gauge their progression, be able to recognize their weaknesses and what they need to work on, and incorporate it into their daily training. And that goes along with diet, nutrition, everything.
Because that's what I loved is when I initially seen you, I thought, okay, he's a big guy, and then he's got some power and stuff. But then as I started finding out more, I could actually see the cross training that you used to be a track star, you used to play football, you did kickboxing, Kempo Karate, but you've also done like MMA. You could see the kind of the transferable skills. You could see the fundamental concepts that you built and developed and evolved. And it comes across really well, like that you switch from kickboxing to boxing like it was nothing. And like for a big guy, your footwork's amazing, your reaction speeds are great. You've been called an ex Mike Tyson, for example. How does that kind of inspire you? I mean, how did you find the switch from kickboxing and evolve to kind of just boxing on its own? Did the cross training help? Because like you've said, you've come into boxing and you're maybe not like the traditional boxing taught style of boxing, but what you're doing is bloody working. You know, so you've made your own version of that. Do you think your
Yep.
cross training has really helped you in that regard?
Absolutely. Definitely. And I'll take it back even to football per se. Being like you'll see a difference between people who fight and all they've done their whole life is just fight. And then as opposed to those who used to play football coming into the fight game. You see the difference because the ones that play football are usually more explosive because all we're doing is it's all hip and core all day is exploding off the ground, 3 point stands, 2 point stands. So I think that explosion aspect definitely gave me a up on every martial art that I've done. And then as far as coming from the kickboxing scene, going into straight boxing, with kickboxing, we got to worry about kicks. So our angles, our footwork is different because we're kicking off of our punches. So I think that's one of the reasons why transitioning to boxing, I was able to pick up and do certain moves and angles and footwork that, not a lot of people in this time of boxing can do. So I think all of that leading up definitely has helped me to be the type of fighter that I am right now.
Now, I've seen videos where you've gone and you've worked with like the Mayweathers, that you're doing your own thing in the pool, on the beach, but then you've got your training with your coaches and stuff like that. You always seem to be seeking out like the next level of expertise, the next coaches, like kind of evolving your game and developing your skill. How have these kind of experiences helped you shorten your learning curve? Because watching your early fights to watching you now, the work you put in is very obvious. You can see that development. The skills are there. The punches are a lot crisper, and the footwork's better. How did you find working with like the likes of Boxing Gold, and how did you help mix your own version of boxing with the styles from other coaches and put it into what's working?
Yeah, one thing about me, I've always been a student of the game. Um, I was never the type of fighter or football player or anything that thought I knew it all. I'm very good at what I do, and I have a lot of knowledge. But I always, there's always more to learn. There's a never-ending learning curve, and once you stop learning, man, then it's time to hang it up. So I'm steadily trying to evolve, and I take a little bit from everybody. Because what works for one person may not work for me, and vice versa. So I just like to take little bits and pieces from everybody who I think can add or sharpen up the tools, and then I just make my own salad with it. Because at the end of the day, when you go into the ring, you're going to fight the way you fight. A lot of it is instinctual from over the years and hours of constantly training. So, me mixing up and taking a little bit from, say, Jeff Mayweather, Dewey Cooper, Coach Mustafa, Justin, and I just make it all into my own. Because at the end of the day, you have to utilize what works for you. And what works for you, what's going to come out when that time get tough and you're in the ring in the heat of battle. Then you got your things you can pick from. So definitely plays a big part. Take a little bit from everybody and make your own salad with it.
I love that. I've never actually heard that phrase, and it really just the way you've said it is kind of like that makes 100% sense there. They kind of a bit of the dressing here, mix it up in the bowl. It's beautifully put. So, how do you find your current skills? Is there an area of things that you would like to work on next? Where how do you want your evolution of your boxing to come? Are you wanting to get bigger and better opponents? Are you looking to just keep developing and just let things fall into place? What would be the evolution of James, the Beast Wilson's boxing career if you had your say in how it went?
I definitely the ultimate goal definitely is to fight for the heavyweight championship of the world. Ultimately, that is the ultimate goal. In the meantime, the day-to-day goal is to just continue to sharpen up. You know, I'm good. I'm a very good fighter, but there's still a lot of things that I would like to work on personally that I would like to tighten up and sharpen up on. And that's one of the characteristics of somebody who is a true champion, a true champion mindset, because they can admit to themselves that they don't know it all. They still want to get better. They still have the hunger and the drive. They still want more, and that's where I'm at. It's every day. I just want to continue to tighten up and sharpen up. And when the time come, when I get that call and it's for that world heavyweight championship title, I'll be ready.
So what would be a typical training week or like a normal week for you look like, because you've got three great kids, you've got an amazing relationship, you've got training, media, you've got all these amazing opportunities that you're currently doing. Do you have such a thing as a normal training week? Does it change when you come to a training camp? Or, do you just kind of fit things in as you can around your other commitments? Because you're such a busy guy, but how on earth do you manage to keep that level of training, skill development, gym work, and just being a father and that sort of thing? Because it's a hell of a lot to do.
Yeah, shoot, kids alone is a full day. um, my man, I'm gonna tell you, my nothing about just when it comes to training alone, it's not typical. Nothing is routine, I should say. And I don't like to keep it routine. I like to mix it up. I like to switch it up. Like, shoot, one day we'll be in the gym training. Then and then the next couple of days I'm like, yo, coach, we're training on the beach, we're training in the mountains. I never like to keep my stuff routine. At the end of the day, a fight is not gonna go routine. There's going to be different variations that happens in the fight. And you got to be able to adjust, So I definitely like to switch it up. And first and foremost, my kids, they come first over everything, So I always, regardless of what's going on, always make sure I set my time aside for them because they're athletes as well, and they got long days just like I do. So I want to make sure I'm still able to be there and give them the time and help groom them as well while they're coming up, So it's definitely a full day starting at 4 a.m. and I don't get home until about 10 p.m., from my own training and doing my stuff with my kids. So, at the end of the day, man, everything will pay off and it's just it's a constant grind, You gotta be committed. It's hard work and dedication.
So how on earth do you manage to recover from that? I mean, if you're doing that sort of thing and there's all these kind of additional things you get told, you should be doing yoga, you should be stretching, you should be doing hot baths, flotation tanks, you should be watching tape of your next opponents. And you're going 150%, you're going beast mode with everything, you're always giving your all, no matter everything we see with you. How do you manage to recover from this? Because you must be mentally and physically shattered on a daily basis, never mind a weekly basis. What kind of like recovery methods do you incorporate into this? Because you just keep coming back stronger and stronger, better and better.
Right. You know what? It's just something. It's nothing set in stone, but I just kind of play with it, man. I try to take a little bit of time if I get a little block and just chill out by myself. No TV, no laptop, no nothing, and I'll just have my alone time. Just sit down on the couch and just chill out, gather my thoughts, and kind of decompress. I just go into a state of isolation, and whether it's only 30 minutes, I take that and that'll kind of give me a little rejuvenated and, and pray. I'm big in my faith and that's just kind of help take me through on a daily basis.
Because that would scare a lot of people, like modern day guys, because we can't not have a gadget beside us. We can't not have the TV on, or we need the noise. We need that kind of stimulation from electronics. Do you think that's where a lot of guys are going wrong in modern day living? Is this something that you get your kids to do as well? Have we become too dependent on trying to keep from thinking and talking and listening to our own thoughts? by using technology as a kind of vice to avoid things?
For sure, definitely, man. We that we see now it's funny because I seen a meme earlier. Like we use the internet used to be our escape from the real world, and now the real world is our escape from the internet because everybody's always online on the gadgets and whatever. Like I don't even let my kids play video games. They don't play video games. They don't play on the phone. They don't do none of that because at the end of the day, man, there's a lot of life to live. If you're always stuck with a screen in front of you, it's so much more that you're missing out on. You're not living in the moment, you know?
It's like when have you ever seen that? There's an image of like everybody at a rock concert, and nearly every single person's got, you know, like their phone up in front, recording it, you know, even though it's right in front of them. And there's an old lady just sitting at the very front. And she's just sitting, watching it, absorbing it, just taking it in. And, you know, it's just that moment of we'd rather record it and put it on Instagram and get likes and stuff like that than just actually enjoy and experience that thing. We're all worrying about what other people think and what other people care about. And it's really sad the way we've kind of, you know, we're judging our lives and comparing ourselves our entire lives against somebody's very particularly chosen Instagram photo or their how many likes they've got on a video. So what would be your definition of masculinity then? You know, what in your opinion makes a good man? You know, what is if you had to define the type of person that you wanted your kids to become like, what kind of hard and soft skills would they have? What kind of mannerisms? What kind of men would you like them to become?
To put it simple, you know, men from the old school, men from back in the day, man, because you know they were men of character. You know, the same way you'll see them out in the open, that'll be the same way they operate when nobody's watching. You know, and that's the difference between now, as you said, like with the whole Instagram thing. People want to compare my life to his life or what they got to what I got. It's like, shut the fuck up, trust your process. His journey is not the same as your journey. What's meant for him is not meant for you. You know, we get so busy caught up in the perception of what we're supposed to have, what we're supposed to be like. No, your life is your life, and you only get one of them, so you need to enjoy it instead of being pressed and worrying about impressing everybody else and living up to other people's standard instead of making the best out of your life and what you got. You know, and that's so big in today's society, man. So, like I said, I try my best not to let my kids they don't play video games, they ain't caught up in all the social media BS, man. Like, live your life, live. You're gonna be structured, you're gonna be disciplined, you're gonna be men of character, good morals and values, and that's the stuff nobody could take away from you. You know, for the rest of your life, all the looks and whatever else, everything else fades, but your character, your morals, and your values that live on forever.
Because not only are you like a deep guy who has developed, you know, and dealt with his own emotional pain, and then become like done some amazing different things in different sports and won championships. Not only have you done that, not only are you dealing like with three young men and helping shape their lives, you know, you're also now working, helping with kids that have been bullied and work with the EYC and things like that. What made you go back and want to give back to these kids, you know, work with the youth? Has that helped you kind of deal with any issues, any kind of emotional baggage that you had from your childhood? By helping others, has it helped you help yourself and almost heal yourself in a way?
You know what? It's like this. I look at a lot of things like this. If you possess knowledge, skills, or whatever it is, certain knowledge, certain skills, and you hold on to them, you hold on to all your experience, and you don't share them, you don't pass them on, then everything you went through and everything you do is just wasted. The whole point is to help out the next man, to help out the next generation. So in a sense, man, it was like my duty as being one of them. I was once one of them. I was the kid sitting up at the group home. I was the kid in juvenile hall. I was the kid mad as hell because I had no parents. I had no clothes. I had nowhere to eat. I had nowhere to sleep. I was one of them, you know? So it's only right that I go back and be able to share my experience and to say, look where I'm at. You know, like this is not the last stop. the journey hasn't even begun yet. This is just a small bump in the road, and there's so much more out there. There's so much more greatness that you can obtain, but you got to lock in. You got to make that decision. You got to become disciplined. You got to stay focused, so it's only right. And I wouldn't change it any other way. It's us as the adults to raise up and guide the next generation. So, that's just one of the things, man, that I love doing, is helping out the youth, man. For sure.
And do you think your version of beast mode has changed? Because when you maybe initially started, it might have been that it was your focus to kind of take all your hurt and your anger and like that environment and all that problems, and then drive it out of you through the iron work, through the running, the football, etc. But now that you're working with the kids as well, is it also that motivation there to show them that there is better, there is more to life, that they can build their confidence, they can avoid trouble, and they can get the things of their dreams? Has beast mode kind of evolved from a personal reflection and dealing with your issues to actually encompassing the hope and future for other people, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you said that, because it's definitely bigger. It's much bigger than what it seems. And it has nothing to do with it's not just working out. It's not just fitness or sports or whatever. It's life, period. It's much bigger. So I don't care if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, an actress, whatever you want to do. If you want to be successful, you have the opportunity to be successful. You can do it. The way is there, but you have to be willing to do the work. You have to be willing to give your all. And that's in life, period, whatever it is you do. So it's definitely on a grander scheme than just, the situation that helped bring me out, which was fitness and training and football and sports. It's life in general.
Okay, apologies. I'm just going to give you a quick shout out about my affiliate schemes that are on just now. I know you don't want to hear this crap that you hear in every other podcast, but I promise I'll be quick. Just a quick note on my affiliates to say I've set up some awesome deals with some amazing companies. If you go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates, that's www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates, there you'll find some amazing deals. There's special offers, listener exclusive deals, and discount codes available. There's companies like Onnit, Amazon, Meet Andy's, Barbell Apparel, Dollar Shave Club, etc. There's stuff there that on deals on outdoor equipment, sporting equipment, tactical gears, gadgets and gizmos. There's stuff there that for yourself, for somebody special in your life, for a special occasion, Secret Santa, office, pool, anything and everything. You'll find deals there. I don't get anything about what you purchase. I don't get any information about yourself. All I get is a small commission from the company as a thank you for you using my links to purchase from them. You don't pay anything extra. Any monies that I do get back then go into making the site bigger and better, getting better tech, attracting and marketing a bigger audience to get bigger and better guests. If you've used one of my links, thank you very much. That link again is www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates. There's no conditions except for those outlined in the notes itself, so feel free to share them, use them and abuse them as much as possible. Get the benefit of them because there's some amazing companies with some amazing products there. Simply go to www.nextlevelguy.com/affiliates. And now let's get back to the interview. Cheers. Because when I initially was sort of focusing on the interview, I thought I'd love to know about like where his power comes from. His reaction speed's amazing, but when I found out about this stuff that you do with these like disadvantaged youths, that the amazing work that like you've done with your kids, how positive and motivational, and how they always want to be with you and training, and the kind of just the training montages they have. It's awesome to see. I would love to have kids that were that kind of focused and dedicated. I mean, I'm only an uncle at the moment. I like handing them back for me, but how did you becoming a father change you in that sense? When you suddenly had to focus on your children in addition to yourself, in addition to your training, how did becoming a father change your outlook on all this? Did it change beast mode for you? Did it change your intensity? Because you've said your children always come first. How did you have to change your life to kind of become a father? I mean, did you have a father figure when you were younger? How did you balance being that figure but not having the experience of one, so to speak.
Right, right. No, see, yeah. I didn't have a dad growing up, so I don't know what that's like. I didn't even really have any male figures to go to. Like if I had questions about whatever, I didn't have that. I had to figure things out on my own.
Because you're doing
So
an awesome job of it. I mean, it's like you were born to be in that role. But how do you know that? I mean, are you just literally kind of feeling your way around? How how have you become that figure that you never had the experience of?
it's crazy because like there's no pamphlet, there's no book on how to be a good parent, how to be a good father. You just kind of figure it out and go along as life goes on. But for some of us, we have the idea in our head, I guess subconsciously, of what we would have liked for us to receive, what it should be like, what the parents should be doing. And ultimately, what we want is for our kids to have a much better life than we had, you know? So because of that, we go, man, that's part of that beast mode or no mode. I'm gonna give you 100% of me. I didn't have it. There's no excuse for you not to have it. There's nothing, it's like it wouldn't be any other way. And because of that, because you have these kids now that you have to look over, that you have to guide, that you have to ensure their life turns out better than yours, you have to give your 110%. So it's beast mode or no more all around. I can't give you guys 110% if I'm not right myself first and foremost. So it all comes full circle. Me being the best version of me is also me ensuring that you guys are being the best versions of yourselves.
And I mean, you also do like volunteering coaching. I think it's strength and conditioning with a local high school. How, and you've worked with some UFC fighters, you've assisted in other training camps. How did you find that transition there from being the person who just turns up, grinds in the work, smashes out the reps, hits the pads, and then goes off to the showers? How did you find suddenly becoming the coach, becoming part of the training pack and leading others and being that father figure for other young guys who have maybe never had that? How do you, because for me it's how do you comprehend that? How do you switch from competitor to coach to father figure? How do you juggle that kind of responsibilities?
I tell you, man, it's just my love for it, my love and my passion for helping others, especially kids. That's one of the reasons, outside of my own kids, I work with a lot of other kids and doing the strength conditioning with the high school. Like I've already been in you guys' position. I already know what it takes. So why would I not go back and share my knowledge, and share my experience to help you guys do better than I did? You know what I'm saying? See, life is not about just ourselves. It's bigger than that. It's about how can you inspire and motivate others. That's what life is about. And that's why I like to go back and help these kids who are not even my own kids. And I treat them just like they're my own kids. I'm still gonna be hard on their ass. I'm gonna be on them. I'm gonna train them to my best of my ability. I'm gonna make sure I pull out every piece of potential that they have inside of them. I'm gonna pull it out of them, and I know how to. I started that back in 2010, and even to this day, kids that I formerly coach still message me, Coach, that was the best experience of my life. Still thanking me to this day. It is just because I love what I do and I give them my all.
And it definitely comes across as that. That's what I loved about yourself. I mean, I'd love to have you back on later. We can talk about like training, eating, diet, nutrition. But this was the side of you that I loved. I love that you've definitely got a message. You've got a focus. You've got it's almost like a mission you've got is to use your experiences to help the young people to be that person that they've maybe never had. I loved you said in I think it was like there was a series of like introductions to people, and on yours it said about was it excuses are the equivalent of failure. I love that kind of mindset. Can you explain about that? Why do excuses equal failure?
Yeah, you see, whenever we make excuses, we're never going to give our 110%. So we're never really going to exceed or excel in that particular, whatever it is. See, we too busy. I can't get up in the morning. I'm too tired. I can't live in the morning. I'm tired. Like, why not? Why can't you? Why not? There's blanket excuses that we give ourselves. Oh, I'll be tired. There's blanket excuses we give ourselves to compensate for us not really wanting to put in the maximum effort. And because we're not willing to put in that maximum effort, we let that excuse fuel us, we engrave it in our mind, and then we fail. We're not willing to give that 110%. Period.
So how do you shape that muscle then? Like I've been guilty of that, which I'm sure many people listening. How do we stop using excuses? Like how do we snap out of that? Is it literally like, is there almost like a not a punishment method of it, but how can we just get people to start building that consistency, that kind of stopping making excuses, the switch of mindset? How, have you found a way that works with young people in particular, or is there a way that you found that works with guys who are really struggling with it?
The best way to start to have them cut that out of their mindset is just to have them do it, whatever it is. Because usually, it's a fear. The reason why we usually have issues with something because we have a low key fear in the back of our mind. So the best way to start cutting those excuses out is to slowly step into the water. Slowly step into the water. Slowly step into the water. And inch by inch, we go get deeper and a little deeper and a little deeper. And before you know it, oh damn, I'm not drowning. I guess I can do it. I guess this can work. And then you start slowly just believing in yourself. But it's individually it's different for everyone. But it'll take somebody who can connect with you, and you really just gotta formulate it to them, whatever it is. Like I remember in college, guys were scared to hit certain weight. We'll put a certain amount of weight on the bar. Guys don't want to hit it there. Before they even try it, you already count yourself up. Oh, that's too heavy. I never did that before. Just because you never did it before doesn't mean you
Man,
can't do it. So, right, like you already failed it. You already defeated because you're telling yourself that before you even fucking attempted it. So get under there, figure it out, see what it feels like. Then if you fail at it, you don't get the rep. Shit, now you know where you're at. Now you know from there what you need to work on. Now you can gauge it from there. But you can't initially count yourself out before you even attempt to do whatever it is.
because that's what I love is that passion and intensity. You can hear it in your voice. You can hear the when you talk about training. You're really excited and you're motivated. But when you talk about this kind of helping others, the mindset, the power, this is where the real beast is for me. It's that kind of you can see that drive, that desire, that mission, that you're hungry for it. I mean, have you had that all your life, do you think, in some way or another? Have you maybe didn't know what it was? Did that desire always just was it deep down when you were running with gangs and things like that? Was it always there, or were you trying to hide from listening to yourself? And it was only when you kind of got caught and put in the home that you thought it gave you a chance to actually listen to what was going on in your own head.
You know what? I think it's something that was always inside of me, and as time went on, just certain events in my life slowly brought it to the forefront. Um, from everything, from being in juvenile hall to being in placement and whatnot. Um, I was a very closed off kid. Like I didn't want to talk about my problems. I didn't want to talk. I just want to be angry. My way of expressing my anger was to hit somebody. That was the way I expressed myself. So I just think over time, man, I found out that I'm a leader. People listen to me, and not because it's an intimidation factor. I lead by example. I'm not gonna tell anybody to do something that I can't do. You know, like I lead by example. And if I can't do it, you know what? Damn it, we're gonna try this shit together. So just over time, man, I don't know. I've always been a leader from college and everything. I'll be the one getting all the guys doing the extra work. Come on, after practice, we got to go get just a little more work. We want to get better. We want the championship. Come on, we got to put a little more work. And that's just who I am. That's just, I always want the best. Let's bring out the best. You know, if we're not giving our best, then we're selling ourselves short.
Because it's quite amazing when you kind of reflect into it, when you look back and it kind of makes sense. But I mean, did becoming a father and coaching these guys and kind of having to be that figure for them that they can come to and ask the issues and stuff like that, has it helped you working with these guys, with the bullied kids and that? Do you think it's helped you kind of put to bed any issues, any demons, any anger that you've maybe carried from your childhood experiences? Has working with them helped you evolve into a more a kind of more settled and happier person, do you think?
You know, I think it's definitely. I think it definitely played a part in of just developing, becoming a man. You know, and I say that because of the patience factor. Dealing with kids, you got all these different personalities, and people come from all these different situations, and some people want a buck, but to be able to have the patience and be able to communicate and talk with these kids and share your experience, that takes a man to do that, be able to reach these kids and humble thyself, you know. So I for surely think it definitely played a part.
Because in another video, you mentioned that anger makes you sloppy. Now, initially, you can look at it in terms of, anger makes you sloppy in the way you punch, if you're not concentrating on where you're putting it, and you maybe miss the power and the accuracy and that sort of thing. But it also makes you sloppy in life, your approach to things, your way of dealing with problems, your way of dealing with people. Is this something that you've learned over time, or where did that saying come from? Because it was a great lesson that you gave your kid when he was trying to, you could see he was getting angry when you were training together, and you were kind of teaching him that it was okay to feel that, but don't use it as your kind of punching power. How did you learn that? Because you throw absolute bombs, but you're doing it with such accuracy and kind of control. Where does that emotional control come from, and how have you taught it to your own kids?
Well, you know what? Life experience. There's certain times, certain situations where not just me, people, period, will act on emotion. And a lot of times we act on just that emotion at that very time, and we'll make the wrong decision. We don't take that time and just, all right, hold on. Let me process real quick. All right. No, we so quick to just jump off, snap. And when we do that, man, we make the wrong decisions, and we take ourselves out of character. One thing about a good person, one thing about a good man is we know how to stay in character, regardless of how the situation is. Shit ain't going our way. We don't get out of character. And that's why I'm so big on them. Like, yo, it's gonna happen. We all been there. You'll get mad, you'll get frustrated. And let's just do okay, we'll just relate it to fighting right now. You get hit. You didn't like that. Okay. So you'll get mad and come at them and go, no, for what? No, cool. Take it. All right, smile at it. Process it in your head. Stay patient. Stay patient. And eventually what you want to do is going to happen. But if you act right off of that emotion of anger and rage, you'll make the wrong decision. And a lot of times you hurt yourself more than you help yourself. And that could be, shoot, you could be in a corporate meeting and you'll hear something you don't like, something you don't agree with. If you act off just your emotion, whatever it is, you're fired. If you do that in the fight, you could be knocked out. So you got to have discipline, and you got to focus, and you got to be able to channel that energy, channel that anger, channel that rage, that aggression.
I love that, because that's something I struggle with. Is there's times when I'm in a jiu-jitsu like fight, and I want to explode and just start, really dominating the guy, and I'm not getting anywhere, or he's beating me or whatever, and it's in your head you feel that anger coming, and it makes you sloppy. It makes you make mistakes, and I love the way you look at that kind of mindset. So imagine, this is a kind of morbid question, but imagine that you've died and they're putting up, that little banner thing at the bottom to announce it. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want your, like, say you had one of your messages that to you that was going to be on that banner, that was only going to be that thing that was played for days and days after you died. What do you want your legacy to be? I mean, because you've done so much, you've had an amazing life, you're helping so many people. But what do you want people to remember when they think of James the Beast Wilson?
Well, first of all, hopefully it'll be a long, long time before we.
Well, it's not a threat or anything, but yeah.
I need another 80 years, okay? Okay, guys?
I think you've got the powers to do that, I'm telling you.
Man. But you know what? When I'm gone, man, I just want to be remembered as somebody who was selfless, somebody who cared more about others than himself. I put others before myself. Somebody an inspiration, somebody who was a motivator, somebody who gave his all, to what he did and to the people. You know what I mean? I just want to be remembered as somebody who people could look up to, who was a role model, and people can look at my life and be inspired from it, and it can give them some type of sense of motivation to help them to be better and progress on with whatever they seek out of their life.
Now, one of my favorite questions is always this one: if you had to say you're sitting at the head of a dinner party and there were spaces for your family and that sort of thing, but you could have 5 additional seats. Now, this was your dream dinner party. They can be real or fictional. They can be alive or dead. They can be somebody that's personal to you, or it can be like a religious figure, or it can be a TV character or whatever. Who do you let those seats to? This is your dream dinner party. Who would you pick? You can have 5 or 6 seats.
Okay, let's see. Dream dinner party. Okay. All right. My older brother who's passed away. Tupac.
Okay,
God.
I see what. That would be an interesting conversation.
Yeah. Let's see here. Muhammad Ali.
That's a pretty awesome pick there. I mean, I heard you mention. I was very sorry to hear about your brother, because you mentioned you got a tattoo in sort of commemoration. Was it your first? Was it tattoo? It was a cross, I believe.
Yeah, that was my first one. Yeah,
I mean, did that help you deal with that kind of issue? I mean, I've had grandparents pass away, and I really struggled with it as a kid, and I really didn't know how to absorb it, and because it was the first kind of time it really happened. How did you manage to deal with it back then?
Yeah, that was a tough part of my life, and shoot, I was 17 at the time, and I was going into my senior year, my senior football season, and that was really a time where I really could have went left and just threw everything away. Now at this point in my life, I got football scholarships on the line, and I got a whole bunch of schools looking at me, recruiting me, and I could easily throw it all away, and I was ready to do that. My brother was my best friend, and to be killed, to have your life taken away, man, that's nobody wants to deal with that. That's something very hard to deal with. But I know that he would have wanted me to continue doing what I was doing. He would have wanted me to continue on that positive path that I began. So that was really a force that helped motivate me to continue on and excelling in what I was doing. And yeah, that was tough. That was tough. But through that, I persevered and had a good season and got a full scholarship. And I'm sure that's what he would have wanted.
Because I think that's part of your. You can see that part of your motivation, your passion. It's that kind of, you're doing it for him as well. You're achieving it for both of you as well. And I think that's something you should be really proud of, is that that you're doing it to kind of to honor him, to kind of like as a kind of remembrance of him. And it's amazing what you've done. I mean, I mean, we've been talking. I've just noticed we've been talking over an hour, and we have not even covered really boxing skills. But I would love to have you on again and really get into that, because there's so many different areas we could have gone, and it was really hard to keep it general because there's so much about you than just a boxer that I really want to push it and learn more about it. So we've got to have you back on. But can I ask a strange question that a lot of people struggle with is, if you're such an intense guy, you're driven, you're articulate, you're powerful. If you had to pick a really strange thing about you that very few people knew, that always makes people go, "What?" when they hear it, what would you pick? I've had some really bizarre answers, but what would be what like when I once set my foot on fire while I was reading. Long story, but it's one of those kind of people give you a funny look. What would you pick for your kind of unusual fact about yourself?
That's interesting. It's a good question.
That you're willing to admit,
See.
anyway.
Right. I don't know. Maybe I love theater. I love plays.
Have you got a particular favorite in mind? Is there one that you would happily watch again and again?
You know what? Well, like growing up, I used to really love Death of a Salesman.
Oh, Arthur Miller, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, I'm a theater head. I like theater.
That's awesome. Because that's what when I initially started watching your stuff, I thought, he's an ex-Mike Tyson. I can see that comparison. But then when I started listening to you, I could see that there was a lot of external factors. There was a lot more to the mindset, to the articulation, to the deepness, to the messages you were given. There was something else there, and I was really kind of interested in finding out more about what kind of books you've read. I mean, do you have a favorite book that you love to kind of promote to the guys you work with?
Let's see here. I don't usually get a lot of time to read, but one of my favorite books is The Art of War.
Oh, Sun Tzu. Oh, yeah.
That's it's a good read. I like it.
And how do you encompass that kind of mentality into your training? Because he's got a lot of great ways of sort of articulating his message, but have you managed to turn a very old manuscript like that into a mentality for your boxing? Do you use that in any particular way?
Well, it's funny, like saying with the book, it's a lot of again, it's about the mind. It's a lot of mental aspects into it, and so yeah, definitely, I would say so, for sure.
And how do you deal with I mean, you've got such a big nickname, as the next Mike Tyson. That must be terrifying to kind of hold on to, because Tyson was an amazing fighter and stuff like that. But how do you manage to deal with that, being nicknamed like that? I mean, I've seen you training with him, and I've seen you training with like the Mayweathers and stuff like that. But are you focusing being on the first true beast of the ring rather than be the next Mike Tyson? Or, how do you deal with that comparison?
First of all, it's an honor to be spoken in the same sentence of Mike Tyson. I get that comparison a lot. However, I'm me. I'm James the Beast Wilson. I got my own style, my own way of doing things, and I'm me. So, as nice as it is, I don't like to be compared to anyone. And quite frankly, in my opinion, there will never be another Mike Tyson. He's one of a kind. And yeah, man, I'm James the Beast Wilson, and that's just what it is. We just have similarities where being in the heavyweight division, we're both on the smaller side. Being shorter, more compact, and because of that, our styles are explosive. That's just the style that comes with us because of our structure, and it works for us. So, but at the end of the day, I'm me.
I love that. It's like you enjoy the comparison, but you're building your own legacy, and that's what I love about it. Is you're not trying to be him. You enjoy the comparison, but you're forging your own legacy, and that rather than trying to mirror somebody else's, and that's what I love about it. I mean, I've definitely got to get you back on. But what do you want? This will be the sort of second last question. What do you want people to take from this? What's sort of like the go home message? If they could only remember one thing from this, what would you want that message to be to them?
I would want everybody to take with them that is give your all. Give your all. Okay. Now, even if you fail at whatever it is, you didn't really fail if you made the attempt. You didn't fail if you gave 110%. You didn't fail if your mindset was beast mode or no mode. Okay. But you will fail if you're timid. You will fail if you're 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out the other. You have to give your all. That's the only way you'll truly succeed. And if you fail, so what? You get your ass back up and you recalculate your steps, and then you do it again and give your all. And you keep doing that and you keep chipping away until you get to where you want to be. Shit don't happen overnight. You got to trust your process. Your process is not the next man's process. It's your journey alone. You got to trust it.
I don't think I could have said better. I love that message. Now, until we can have you back on, how can people follow you? Because you've got some amazing social media channels. You're doing so many projects, and how can we follow the career of James? How can we see the Beast Wilson? How can we see the fights? How can we come and meet you, train with you, connect with you on social media? Like follow your, the forthcoming projects.
Definitely. Y'all can stay in tune with me and everything that I do on. Just follow me at James the Beast Wilson on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Subscribe to my channel, Twitter. I'm James Wilson MMA, and just stay in touch, man. And when I have things coming up, man, you guys will be the first to know, man. So make sure y'all come follow me and check me out, man. And you already know, man, it's beast mode or no mode.
Well, I cannot thank you enough. It's been an absolute pleasure. There's so many questions I've still got to ask, so you've definitely got to come back on, and we'll smash it again. You're doing an amazing thing. The stuff you're doing with your own kids is amazing, but the stuff you're helping the future generations of young disadvantaged kids who are maybe going to fall into dark paths. You're teaching them that there's a better way of how to do it. You're becoming a father figure, teaching them to be better men, and you're helping the next generation of kids and become better men. And that is an amazing thing to do. It's probably one of the biggest compliments you can get is you're helping kids become men. And it's very few men are doing that. We're all, very selfish in our own desires, and you're taking time out and having long days by helping others, and it's amazing to watch, and I just wish you nothing but success for the future. Is there anything at the moment that you want to promote? Is there anything coming up that you think people should know about that I can happily promote on the site?
You know what? No particular fight scheduled up yet, but it should be something coming up soon. So just stay tuned, man. And when I get the word, I'll put it out there and make sure you guys tune in and support, man. It'll be on the zone, and yeah, man, just stay up and follow the journey of the next world heavyweight champ.
That's it for another week. Thanks for listening. Absorb it, practice it, use it. Until next time, keep trying to hit that next level in your life.